Good evening and welcome to tonight's live stream. Gordon Causey coming to you, as is usually the case, live and unscripted. And today it is Saturday, the 15th of March, and it's late in the evening, 11:15 p.m. As you may gather from the sound of my voice and my cough there, I have been a little under the weather lately. But whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching it later, I appreciate you taking the time to weigh the thoughts that I'm going to be expressing. This is my dog, Candy, the Wonder Dog. Used to call her Wonder Pup, but she's 5 years old now. And she starts out every video with me because I have been trained, I have been conditioned by my dog. Border Collie's very smart. Actually, she's half and half. She's half Border Collie, half Aussie Shepherd. But to me, they are basically the same breed. And somewhere in my pocket here, I have a treat. If I can find, oh, here, I'd set it aside. Shake, speak, speak. Come on. Oh, there's a better bark. And I'm glad to see I have some people jumping on. Danny is here with the cross, praying hands. He has his coffee, as do I. I have one of my one of my Bibles here, my Oxford annotated study Bible. I got this many years ago, probably 40-ish years ago, back in university for a course I took in biblical and Greek and biblical traditions was the name of the course, if memory serves. Long time ago when I was at York. So I welcome you to fill up the live chat. As I say, whether you're watching this live with me and interacting or watching later, either way, I appreciate it. Uh, and I always do enjoy the live interaction. But if you tune in later and you want to put up a comment, please put that up. I read all the comments. I try to respond to them, to as many of them as I can. Uh, Sometimes I don't, sometimes whatever the case. I try. Uh, a question: if anyone is stumbling upon this new for the very first time, and they might ask, I'm saying we're in an undeclared state of war. Who is this guy? Who is Gordon Causey? Why should I listen to him? I'm here to tell you, you shouldn't listen to me. Shouldn't listen to anyone. What I'm going to suggest is that you listen not to me, but to the ideas, the thoughts, the views, the opinions that I am expressing, and then weigh them yourself. Do some research, do some reading, see whether what I suggest, what I have to say, whether it has any bearing in this crazy world in which we are all living. I've got JCP is here wishing me a good evening and who is praying for the world. Amen. And Danny is writing the words trust but verify. Actually, the only one in whom we should trust is in God. And if you're a Christian, that means trusting in Christ. Uh, Everyone else, verify. And that includes, obviously, that includes me. I wanted to read a comment that was posted by, and I've got to get the name. It was posted by uh, Airworks07, who participates in the lives a lot of the time. I don't know whether she, I don't know whether Airworks is a male or female. I think female. But I'm not sure. Uh, Wrote this on a stream where I did. Uh, the title of which was "Everyone Wants Canadians to boycott U.S. goods as much as possible. Will you?" And this was the comment that Airworks07 put down. "This whole boycott of U.S. goods makes my blood boil. I am going out of my way to buy U.S. products. Where were all of these Buy Canada people for the last decade? They purchased from Amazon, Temu, Shein, all while local businesses close at an alarming rate." And then Airworks goes on to say, "I am glad that I found your channel amidst the madness that is going on in our once great country. And I'm glad that Airworks found my channel, because at times like this, when we are undergoing psychological warfare, and we have been for a long time. This is one of the comments I'm going to make, that I'm going to say, weigh it, mull it over, ruminate over it, do some reading. Is the world in an undeclared state of war? It certainly feels that way to me. And it came crashing in on us during the COVID era, when you would get yelled, screamed, and belittled if you didn't follow stickers on a floor. If you had a 2-year-old at the grocery store and you refused to stick a diaper on their face, what two-year-olds were often smart enough to yank that thing right away. And then that's to say nothing of, a medical intervention. I'm using that term on purpose just to avoid the algorithms. A medical intervention that a lot of people only got because they were more or less, they were forced to get it in order to be a participating member of society. Take your kid to hockey, sit down in a restaurant, get in a plane, to work, to put food on the table and clothes on your kid's back. Horrible times that we came through over the last 5 years. Now there's equally psychological operation going on to convince everyone that the United States is our enemy somehow, and that we should all be putting elbows up and buy Canadian, and boycott anything whenever possible that's coming from the United States. Canada has just had imposed upon it a new prime minister, one not elected by the people of Canada, but rather installed by card-carrying Liberal Party members in a very opaque, that is to say, not a transparent, process, imposed a new prime minister on Canada. It was a very opaque process. You can't see through it. 400,000 individuals are Liberal Party of Canada card-carrying members. They were to have the right to vote to elect a new leader to the Liberal Party to replace Justin Trudeau. However, they put into place a 3 or 4-step verification process before someone would be allowed to vote. And there have been legions of card-carrying Liberal Party members complaining that they were locked out of the system and unable to cast a ballot in that vote. So of the 400,000 card-carrying Liberal Party members, only 150,000-ish, I think it was 151,000 and change, were only those were the only ones who actually voted. So Canada just had a new prime minister imposed on it, Mark Carney. He took the oath of office on Friday. So yesterday, took the oath of office, and or not, no, in Canada, we don't refer to it as the oath of office. That's more of an American term. We refer to it as swearing in. He was sworn in by the Governor General. It's amazing that so many Canadians do not understand our very own system of democracy. We're heavily influenced, obviously, by the United States. I just used a term that's more American in orientation, the oath of office. It's a swearing in Canada. If you ask most Canadians, or a lot of Canadians, and certainly the younger set, what is the last letter of the alphabet? They will tell you Z. They will not say Z. We speak American. We watch American shows. We listen to American music. We watch American sports. The Super Bowl parties are bigger than Grey Cup parties. And now all of a sudden, we are being conditioned. We are being programmed. We are being psychologically manipulated into hating our greatest friend and ally. And why? The reason is because Donald Trump, President of the United States, has imposed upon Canada tariffs starting out on steel and aluminum, a 25% tariff on both, meaning that whenever steel or aluminum is imported into the United States from Canada or anywhere else, those importing it will have to pay the US government a 25% tariff. And there are concerns among economists that levying such a tariff, that it will lead to inflation for American consumers. It doesn't impact Canadian consumers because the tariff is on the US side of the border. It will impact Canada because now we have reciprocated. We have imposed a like-minded or a likewise a 25% steel and aluminum tariff on any products coming into Canada. And it should be noted, and is often forgotten, I've had numerous conversations over the past few days reminding people, and it wasn't, in some cases, it wasn't even a matter of reminding them. They were ignorant to the fact that during the first Trump administration from 2016 to 2020, the Americans under Trump imposed tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum back then. Back in, I think it was in 2018, it might have been 2019, one of those 2 years, the Trump administration imposed 25% tariffs on steel. And back then it was 10% tariffs on aluminum. And nobody cared. Nobody was saying elbows up. Everything was fine. Now, why were we fine then and why are we all upset now? It's because the television, it's there to tell you, this is something of a theme on my channel, that the news, the media, our politicians, the key opinion leaders in the world, they are there to tell you what to think, what to believe, and even how to feel about it. And you're supposed to be you're supposed to think that Donald Trump is evil incarnate and that he's a dictator and that blah, blah, blah. I mean, we've all seen the talking points put forth by the CBCs of the world. I like to keep up on the live chat. I'm not doing this on StreamYard tonight. So let me see what's being written. Danny wrote with respect to the intervention that it was uninformed consent. How can you give informed consent when Canadians are not even allowed to see the contracts that our own government signed with Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, etc.? The makers of the pharmaceutical intervention required that anyone viewing the contracts signed between the pharmaceutical companies and Canada, that they be subject to what is referred to as a non-disclosure agreement. Most will be familiar. An NDA, non-disclosure agreement, means that after you read the contents of the contract, that you have a gag order placed onto you. You are then precluded from being able to disseminate what you have learned in those contracts. And at peril of legal action being taken. I don't know what the legal action would be, fine, imprisonment, who knows? It's probably contained within those contracts that we're not allowed to read, perhaps. I don't know. I'm not a legal expert. Eat Me is here from Montreal. I've got two Montréalais. That's French for Montrealer. Montréalais, Montréalaise. Eat Me is Montréalaise. Masculine, feminine, two genders. Something Trump recognizes, something that Mark Carney and our liberal elite woke class does not. They deny the basic fabric of reality. If you sense a tone that I am anti-Mark Carney, anti-liberal, well, then you are paying attention. I am. And that is not to say that I'm all in on Pierre Poilievre or all in on Donald Trump. There's only one in whom I am all in. Danny will know the answer to this. Who am I all in with? My Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And I can't say that enough. So let me continue reading. I've got Danny writing, that would mean for Canadians, no McD's, Burger King, KFC, Denny's, Popeyes, Walmart, Amazon, etc. Good luck. Yeah, in reference to Airworks' comment. If we were to boycott everything American, I mentioned in an earlier stream this past week, I was in Dollar Tree, a discount store in the neighboring town of Trenton. And Dollar Tree is an American store, like Walmart, like McDonald's, like KFC, like all these things that Canadians know and love because we have become part of the American empire. And now, for whatever reason, and I'm going to suggest a reason, why are we suddenly rebelling against the established way of this world? Because this world is changing. This world is changing. There's a new player who is moving in, and they've already moved in to a large extent. If you don't believe me, just take any piece of clothing that you have and look for the where it was made tag, and you'll know who the emerging new power on the block is. And I'm here to say that the United States of America under Donald Trump or anyone else is far from perfect, far from it. But I'm equally here to tell you that we can do worse. We can do much worse, and we are doing worse. I'm here to tell you that the Canadian political establishment and much of what I'll call the bureaucracy of our governments, plural, and even our legal system have been infiltrated by a foreign power. Beholden not to Canada and its democratic system, but rather to a foreign entity on the other side of the world. Just going to continue reading on. Brett Skinner is here, who is from the great state of Wyoming, and I don't mean that pejoratively, I mean it genuinely. The great state of Wyoming, great state of Montana, great state of Florida. The United States, even with all its flaws, and they are many, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But we are being conditioned to do just that by our, and I'm just going to say it, by our Chinese overlords. They own most of the sovereign debt in this, most of the non-sovereign debt in this world. And Canada is very beholden to the Chinese. And so they are promoting a pro-China agenda, an anti-American agenda. And stating that is not going to be popular. Stating that is not going to be popular. If you join with me and start asserting that the United States is our greatest friend and that Donald Trump is not the enemy, then you are not going to be liked. You are going to be like that shopper in the grocery store going down the aisle and not following the stickers on the floor, daring to have the temerity to go into an indoor congregate setting without a diaper on your face, for refusing to get a pharmaceutical intervention that was rushed into people's arms. You're going, and everyone should remember, especially those of us who push back against all the COVID insanity, we were hated. We were hated. There is a mob mentality that takes place, and it is scary, and pushing back against it is difficult. It is difficult. It is hard. I don't think there's anything wrong in acknowledging that. And that's why I so appreciated Airworks and the comment that Airworks placed on that stream that I did probably a few nights ago. We are going to be up against it in terms of pushing back against this agenda. I'm just going to try and catch up on what's being written. Got a few comments. And I apologize for this. I like the StreamYard platform that I often use that allows me to populate the comments to the screen. However, as a free user, this channel, I don't ask for subscriptions, and I don't point people to the book I just wrote, and I'm not using the I have monetized the channel, so ads do appear. I somewhat apologize for that, but the way I look upon things is that YouTube is a business, and sometimes my videos get hundreds, 500, 600, 700 views. The top video I've published has gotten 30,000 views, and people come onto YouTube, they view my content, then they go on to other content on YouTube, and YouTube generates revenue, and I'm a content creator. So if a few nickels and dimes and quarters and the odd loony or toonie falls down through the cracks and falls into my hand, fair enough. So I'm not a communist. I'm not opposed to having a few nickels and dimes fall into my hand. So I'm just trying to catch up because I had Brett Skinner is writing a little FYI. Trump is now a wartime president. Keep that in mind. Don't believe for a second he doesn't want war. Uh, the US, the thesis statement of this video that I put out is that the US right now is in a state of undeclared war. There is a war going on, and it is global in scope. This is called realpolitik, often spelled with a K instead of a C, realpolitik, or sometimes referred to as geopolitics. For what it's worth, I did study politics at the university level. However, that doesn't mean that what I am saying is right. Again, listen to the thoughts, views, opinions I'm expressing, weigh them, seek out alternative information, and then you can decide whether or not you think I'm speaking out of my nether regions. The thing is, you're not going to hear this point of view being expressed on the nightly news. And the nightly news is now an arm of the government. It's been infiltrated. In Canada, we have CBC News, which is a crown corporation. It's government-owned news. That's the same as the old TASS news agency in the old Soviet Union. Government-funded, government-owned news. Then we have private media outlets like CTV and Global. However, they receive large subsidies from the government of Canada. And it's that old adage that you do not bite the hand that feeds you. So if it used to be in a bygone era that it was the job of ethical journalists to present all sides. If there are two sides to an issue, an ethical journalistic outfit would present both sides of the argument and then let the viewer decide and not engage in weak intellectual games like ad hominem attacks or straw manning things. Now, ad hominem and straw man are the purvey of our media outlets. It's a disgusting situation we're living in, but this is what happens at times of war, an undeclared state of war. If CBC News does deign to allow someone with my point of view to express their opinion, they're going to have him come on someone like the QAnon shaman wearing the Loyal Order water buffalo hat with face paint on, and that's straw manning. They're not going to take someone who is a senior political analysis with a major think tank, someone who puts forth ideas, even in a better fashion than I can. Although I think I do a reasonably good job, but they'll get someone who has the so-called bona fides, or if you prefer, bona fides. I've heard it pronounced both ways. Just catching up. Danny is writing, that would mean for, okay, I read that. Sharunian is writing, I have to change my profile pic because these jerks trying to steal passports. JCP has written, have you heard about Germany upping their military development? No, I have not. I have heard that there is so much going on in the world now, and I have been sick. Although I haven't missed any work. I'm one of those rare old dinosaurs who, even when he's feeling under the weather, and it's allergies primarily, that I'm still going into work, because I know that if I don't go into work, then that just means more work for those who are left. Those who, I'm one of the tough it out types. That's not to say if I'm down and out, I will not go in. But for allergies and just feeling run down, no, I'll tough it out. And then JCP says further, with respect to Germany, upping their military development, that they are ramping up building, and I think he meant to write army or armor or armaments, whatever the case. Amy is writing, Was watching The Chosen when you came online. Awesome. We watched an episode tonight. I think it was episode or season 3, episode 3. Matthew the tax collector said to that Roman, conquest is not only about the subjugation of the population, it is to impose a way of thinking. And we have excellent point, Amy, to bring that up, because we are having a new way of thinking imposed upon us. It must be remembered that communism is an atheistic doctrine. God, according to Karl Marx, is the opiate of the masses. And when you replace God, when you replace Christ, when you wipe out the Judeo Christian ethic, then the state becomes God. And that is the way that the Chinese operate. Look at the persecution against Christians. Chinese Christians are incredible. They are memorizing scripture in Chinese, in Mandarin Chinese, and other dialects of Chinese, the Chinese language. I don't know how many languages they have there, but there is open persecution of Christians. They have to meet underground. Likewise, and I can't, I'm probably not going to be pronouncing this right, but even the Urquharts or whatever, there is a Chinese Muslim minority population that is equally being persecuted. And it's not because Islam is the true faith, but because Islam as a religious doctrine replaces the religious doctrine of worshiping the state, worshiping the Communist Party, and obeying it as if it is God. And they do not want any competition. Danny's going on about what I refer to as the quote unquote pharmaceutical intervention, that when you open most pharmaceutical products, there will be an insert and you open it up and it's very thin paper, almost rice paper, not quite that bad. Very thin, poor quality paper, and they do that on purpose because when you unfold it, it's the size of a poster that used to hang up in your bedroom as a teenager. Massive poster, and it's filled with indications, counter indications, all side effects, got everything in it. And it's been widely reported by many, although having never taken the pharmaceutical intervention, I don't know empirically, but I've seen a myriad of examples of individuals opening the box containing the vial and then pulling out the insert, and the insert is blank. So how can you give informed consent when you're given zero information? Eat Me says that something is the best ever thing I've heard, that she's heard in a while. Quite a truth. And then I have Danny writing, WEF, Satan, and Agenda 2030 is the problem. If you've been paying everyone here, everyone commenting right now has been on my station before, I believe. I don't believe I have any first timers commenting in the live chat. And if you are a first timer, hey, throw it out there. Say, introduce yourself to everyone. I do these frequently. The last 2 nights, I've tapped out because I've just been worn out. I work 9-hour shifts, and normally that's fine. I'm good to go in the evening to do a live stream. But the past couple nights, I've just been down and out, and I am on the mend. I should mention, I got a suggestion. Likewise, another comment on a different video by Turd Ferguson, channeling Norm Macdonald's old character from Saturday Night Live when they parodied Jeopardy. Norm Macdonald would do an amazing impression of a young Burt Reynolds, and he changed his name to Turd Ferguson. So Turd Ferguson writes, allergies, the great seasonal affliction, nature's way of reminding us that even the air we breathe can turn against us. During a video, I was coughing like I am now, but I was sneezing like crazy. Watery eyes, general misery of feeling like you've been stuffed with straw, all courtesy of pollen dust or whatever unseen irritants conspire against our well-being. But then he goes on to say, but here's a remedy as old as common sense itself, a tablespoon of local honey once a day. That's it. no elaborate interventions, no costly prescriptions, just nature's own nectar gathered by those tireless buzzing artisans of the field. I speak from experience. For years, I suffered the indignity of allergies until I took up this simple regimen. The results? Well, let's just say that ever since I've been as unbothered by pollen as a rock in a meadow. And I'm going to take that suggestion to heart and I am going to source out some natural honey. I don't know if I can get local honey, but I will source out some natural honey, unprocessed, not Billy Bee or any of the brand names. And I'm going to give it a try. We have a rule in this household with my youngest, who is 11. Yep, old gray beard like me, and my youngest is only 11. My youngest was born when I was 47. Do the math, that makes me 58 now. And the rule is this: if he wants to eat something, if he wants a snack, the rule is if it's an apple, a banana, an avocado, a carrot, anything that came out of God's beautiful green earth, don't need to ask. You want a Swiss roll? You want a cookie? You want a slice of pie or something, whatever else happens to be around that has been crafted by human hands, then you have to ask. And so if it comes from God's green earth, and certainly honey qualifies, then I'm going to give it a try. And I'm reminded of John the Baptist, who was in the wilderness preaching repentance, make straight the ways of the Lord. And he girded himself in camel's hair and was eating locusts and wild honey. Not that I'm a big fan of eating bugs, but the honey part I think I can handle. Uh, just trying to catch up. And JCP makes a great point. JCP is writing, nobody is paying attention to the Chinese tariffs either. No, there is a trade war going on between Canada and China that no one is aware of. Canada placed 100% tariffs on Chinese manufactured electronic vehicles. And so the Chinese, which is not a huge market, we are a small market. China has a population about 35 times bigger than us, 35 times bigger than us. And you wonder why they have so much influence. China's 4 times bigger population than the United States of America. And you wonder why the Chinese are able to exert such influence on our media, on our political system. I'm going to say, even on our judicial system. Why do they have this much influence? Look at their size. 35 times bigger than Canada. And they are the power on the rise. They are the waxing power in the world. The US has been waning. However, Donald Trump is making moves that is attempting to reverse that course. The US has been heading downstream toward a waterfall and is going to plunge down into second place, and then goodness knows how much further it can fall after that. The US is heading down, and Donald Trump is trying to right the ship. Is he doing it perfectly? There is no perfect. And righting the ship, it's easier to go with the flow. It's easier to go with the stream. When you try and reverse course and you're in a heavy current, the ship is going to rock. And people are going to complain and whine and bitch and moan. But anyway, getting back to the Chinese, the real trade war going on between Canada and China. So we imposed 100% tariffs on their electronic vehicles. We'll drop in the bucket to the Chinese, but they have responded by imposing 100% product tariffs on certain agricultural products, principally among them canola, which canola oil is a massive component of our economy, especially in provinces like Manitoba and Saskatchewan. And then likewise, they've also imposed hefty tariffs. I think it's 100% on our seafood products, and that's threatening to hammer the BC fisheries. And the Premier of British Columbia, Eby, is now calling on Canada to drop the trade war with China. Elbows up against the United States, but let's give in to the Chinese. Let's let them sell a few electronic vehicles in Canada. Let's not hurt our Chinese masters. That's what this is boiling down to. And if this content is resonating with you at all, and you haven't subscribed, I invite you to please do it, because it'll let me get my voice out there a little bit more. And likewise, you're welcome to share this. I know I do drone on, but I am who I am. Let me read on. Danny's writing, technocrats. Danny goes on to say, well, the Chinese are probably the army of 200 million that will march down the drying up of the Euphrates, talking about when God pours out, when the cups of God's wrath are pouring out, as told in the book of Revelation. Don't ask me chapter and verse. I'm not very good at that. But one of the cups is poured out, the cups of God's wrath. And what happens is the great river Euphrates dries up, allowing the kings of the east and their armies to come and descend upon the Holy Land. And we are living in biblical times. And the interesting thing when we get into biblical prophecy, and I'm going to touch more on that, and certainly more on the chosen, because ultimately this world is going to go the way it's going to go. And I'm not going to play along. I had someone at work today. I left the military in June of 2021. And then early 2022, I started working at a large retail establishment. I do not name it on this station. Some will know it. I do have people who I interact with now tuning into my live streams, because I mention it to people. I have these conversations during the day, and I say you can check me out on YouTube, and I'll write down my name for them because it's branded just under my name. I don't have a fancy title. It's bare bones basic. And I had a couple, elderly, older than myself. I'm 58. They were probably in their mid 60s, maybe crowding 70. And I swear to goodness, their head was about to explode. I said, I'm not concerned with the United States. They put tariffs on us back before, when Trump was in office in 2017, 2018, sometime around there. He imposed tariffs on us then, and we didn't care because the television didn't tell us to care. Now we're all up in arms, and we're wearing made in Chinese merchandise like elbows up and, Canada not for sale, all of it made in China. And I do not want to live in a country that is under the Chinese umbrella. And the biggest protection we have against that is to align ourselves even more closely with our good friends to the south, the Americans. And if that means becoming the 51st state, I am all for it. I'm one of the 10% who is not vehemently opposed to this idea of Canada becoming the 51st state. I am not a Canadian. I am not an American. I am a Christian. And whichever system best allows me to proclaim my faith is the one, and I can recognize the signs of the times, and I can see the way the world is going. And maybe you think I'm wrong. Maybe you think I'm overblowing things. Maybe you think, we can just go along and weather the storm and that this will pass. I do not share that view. And then Hank Holiday is here from the great state of Texas. And again, I mean that genuinely. Hello, people. That includes you and including me. Thank you so much, Hank. Danny is writing, Canada has been training the Chinese military. We've engaged in joint operations for cold weather combat. What the Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. I'm making a concerted effort not to engage in profanity on my station. I'm ex-military. I'm familiar with the words, and I've used them many times. But Christians are supposed to be circumspect in our speech, and it's one of the areas I'm trying to improve on. However, when I am sufficiently angry and think that something is garbage, I have been known in previous videos to call things out as F-bomb bull hockey. I'm trying, the sentiment is the same though. I'm trying to avoid the words. Uh, and then Denny goes on to say, we're teaching our enemy how to fight us, living in the upside down, very much. Eat Me goes on to write, wait, oh, this thing jumps, unfortunately. Uh, so much being written. I may not be. Okay, Amy goes on to write, just look at the Hulu Tutsi massacre back then. The media overcracked the Hutu against the Tutsi, and the rest is history. Even some bodies were floating up the Thames in England. I'm not familiar with that enough, so I'm not going to comment on it. Amy saying howdy to Hank. Denny is talking about, you know, he's referring to the Democrats as democrats for what it's worth. I'm not a big fan of, I call that jingoism. I'm not sure if I'm using the word right, but when you know, Rush Limbaugh used to call them the spendocrats and things. And I recognize that that kind of language can turn off people. I'm hoping to win some hearts and minds over to my point of view, to the point of view that many of us seem to share here, that our enemy is not our good friends to the south, not Americans. But we are going to be like people going the wrong way down the grocery store aisle, not following the stickers. And we are going to be hated for it. And that's where I harken back to Airworks comments and him saying he's, or she saying, so glad to have found my station. Well, I'm glad to be able to connect with other like-minded people, whether American or Canadian. We have Canadians now booing the Star Spangled Banner regularly at NHL hockey games and in Toronto when the Raptors are playing. And that's disgusting. And again, the United States of America is not perfect. They are not the greatest, they are not the bastion of everything good and righteous and perfect in the world. The United States is incredibly flawed. However, people far smarter than me have coined this phrase that democracy is the worst possible form of government with one notable exception, and that it is superior to all the alternatives. Yeah, democracy is incredibly flawed. You have the potential for something that's been referred to for over 200 years as tyranny of the majority, where the majority can tyrannize a minority. And it's such a tough balancing act. I just did a video, not live. I did a pre-recorded video taking exception to Donald Trump, that his administration. There's a Syrian national who lived in Syria, an individual who identifies as Palestinian, who attended Columbia University. His name is Mahmoud Khalif or something like that. I'm going to just say Mahmoud. Mahmoud is in the US. He arrived on a student visa, was later granted a green card. He attended Columbia University. He was born in Syria, fled Syria due to the civil war that took place in that country, we should all remember. And then he went to Lebanon, attended the American University of Lebanon at Beirut, and then he earned a master's degree in the United States, I believe at Columbia. And then during the protests that were taking place at campuses all across Canada and the US, the protesters were calling for the University of Columbia for its investments to divest of any investments held in Israeli companies. This boycott Israel movement that is out there. I forget the word boycott, divest, and something else. BD something. There's an acronym. There's an acronym for everything in today's world. And so they were the protest was sent around advocating that the University of Columbia divest itself from all Israeli financial vehicles. And he has been arrested by ICE, detained in the state of Louisiana, and the Trump administration is seeking to have him deported. And most on this station will be aware of my opinions vis-a-vis everything that's going on in Israel. And I am a huge supporter of the nation state of Israel. I support their right to exist. I support their right to defend themselves. And I am not in agreement with this gentleman, Mahmoud. I'm not in agreement with his point of view. But regardless of the fact that I disagree with him, if the allegations are that he was a spokesperson, leader of this movement, calling on Columbia University to divest from Israel, well, that's a political opinion. And even though I don't agree with it, it's that old line from Voltaire. While I may not agree with what you have to say, I will defend to the death your right to say it. I don't know if I'm willing to defend it to the death. Not willing, and not sure it's a hill I'm willing to die on, but I am going to speak out against it, and I'm going to say, let him go. Is the United States the bastion of free speech that it claims itself to be, or is only the bastion of approved speech? And that's an important distinction. We all just came through the COVID era where we were subject to heavy-handed censorship and heavy-handed government action and overreach for those individuals who became prominent and dared to speak out. In this country, in Canada, 5 pastors, 5 faith leaders went to jail for refusing to bend the knee and close their churches to corporate worship, to meeting in person. James Coates, Tim Stevens, Tobias Thiessen, who's an individual I actually met. I know Tobias. He's from James Coates is in Edmonton. Tim Stevens is in Calgary. Art Pulowski is likewise in Calgary. He's much better known. Then there was Tobias Thiessen, and the last one that I'm aware of, maybe there are more, but I'm aware of these 5. And the last one is Phil Hutchings from St. John, New Brunswick. Yeah, we had a virus widely believed to have escaped or to have been intentionally released from a lab. Many suspect from a lab in Wuhan, China itself, that upended the entire Western world. Who cares about how the Chinese dealt with it? They're a dictatorial communist system. We're supposed to be living in the free West. That was not, in my books, that was an IQ test, and we failed collectively. Our society, Canadian society, and a large chunk of American society, certainly in the state of California with Gavin Mussolini or whatever his name is. So I'm going to read. It's enough of a diatribe, enough of a rant for now. Hank Holiday is writing, brothers and sisters, we are in for it. Danny is saying defund the CBC now. Oh yeah. We do not need the government does not need, it has enough reach. It can propagandize us enough without using our own money, tax dollars, to propagandize us further. There are alternative news outlets out there. There is Rebel News, non-government funded. There's True North, non-government funded. There's the Western Standard, which actually I put at the top. They're not government funded. We do not need a government-funded news agency like CBC, and we do not need our government doling out, I think it's in the neighborhood of $400 million a year to the legacy media, not to Rebel, not to Western Standard, not to True North. And do those 3 aforementioned, does Rebel, does True North, does Western Standard, are they perfect? No. They get things wrong. But guess what? They're vastly superior to the legacy media in this country, which has become little more than a propaganda arm. Uh, I'm just trying to catch up. Okay. JCP is writing about the centralized bank, CBDC, central bank digital currency. And now Canada has had imposed on it a central banker by the name of Mark Carney, not democratically elected by the people of Canada to be prime minister, but imposed on us by 150,000 or so Liberal Party members. And to be a member of the Liberal Party, you could be as young as 14 years of age, and you didn't even have to be a citizen of Canada. Now, who were the 150,000 that they deemed eligible to vote in the actual election? I don't know. I have my suspicions, and that's all they are. I can't prove this. I have my suspicions that they wanted to ensure that Mark Carney was given an overwhelming mandate, which he actually, of the 150,000 votes that they counted, of the 150,000 people who were able to navigate the system and weren't shut out from voting, Mark Carney received about 86% of the votes. It almost sounds like the vote that took place in Austria during what they call the Anschluss of Austria in 1938 or 1939. I forget exactly when the Anschluss was. Eat Me is writing, Hell Friday in the middle of the night. Woke up not feeling well, and it was a stomach flu. Kept emptying everything. Right? Protein deposit. Finally, recuperating from dehydration. Not pleasant. The flu is nasty. I've had it a couple times. Danny's going to try the honey. I'm going to give it a shot. Turd Ferguson, if you're watching this, hey. And then Danny, we've got lots of health. This is not a health channel. I have no medical degrees of any shape or form. Not a homeopath, not a naturopath, certainly not a member of the medical profession. So take everything here with a grain. I'm just going to throw this out as a disclaimer. Take everything with a grain of salt. As far as I can't see honey, natural honey, doing any harm. And heck, if it makes me feel better, I do take. I try to avoid taking any type of pharmaceutical, even over the counter, as much as possible. But I do take turmeric, which is an Indian spice that is said to have anti-inflammatory properties. And after having taken it, my sciatica cleared up. Maybe it was the placebo effect. I don't care. And the other thing I take is magnesium, because I get muscle cramps. I'm getting old. Anyway, I have Linda Watson, and she is writing, if I can get back to it, because I just went too far. Where did Linda's comment go? The Liberal NDP want us to be against America. I will buy what I want from whom I want. Amen. Emi is writing that canola, yes, this is canola oil is nasty and should not even be in our diet. Canola was our war effort in World War II. It was an oil that lubricated boat parts, that had an antitrust quality. The only thing is that, like, I don't know, is canola, I don't know. I'm not a medical doctor, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not a botanist. I'm not an expert in the agricultural field either. I don't even know what canola is, really, to be honest. I just know we grow it. Is it a genetically modified crop? I don't know. And, the way I tend to look at things, if they come out of God's green earth, they have to have some benefit. But anyway, and I have so much trouble keeping up with everything in the area of all the studies that get done that say, one day you hear that, don't eat eggs, and then, well, you should eat the egg white. Well, we don't really know. And so it's so hard to keep up. What you're told one day, a year later, it changes and then changes back. And then Eatme's writing that after the war, the demand for canola oil dropped, and they found a way to make it edible. Just like Crisco. Oh, we used to have that in the house. Crisco. That was how we made popcorn back in the days when my dad would have a pot, and it would be Crisco oil going into the pot, and the kernels going on it. I'm old. Uh, just reading on Eat Me coconut oil. Lots of health. Here I go to talk about politics, and everyone's talking about health. It's interesting. There was a book written by a gentleman named Upton Sinclair back, 1920s, 1930s. It's called The Jungle. And what Upton Sinclair was a journalist and a socialist. And he went to work in the meatpacking industry in Chicago because he wanted to expose the horrendous labor conditions that existed in the meatpacking industry and how primarily recent immigrants to the United States were being exploited by their employers. And he detailed in his novel some heinous, disgusting, stomach turning practices that were the norm in the meatpacking industry back in that era. And after the book came out, rather than changing the political climate and making Americans more amenable to socialistic ideas. Instead, what happened was it led to the creation of the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, that started to have inspectors go in and ensure that certain quality standards were being adhered to in the meatpacking industry. And a famous comment about the novel was that Upton Sinclair aimed for the political conscience of the nation and hit everyone right in the stomach. If you ever want to read a good book, it is a good book. Eat Me saying margarine heresy, tastes like demon scatter. Uh, and a great comment by Danny. They need not censor us. They have taught us to self-censor. They make us afraid of talking, of contradicting the prevailing narrative, because the mob, the unthinking mob, is all ready to jump all over anyone who doesn't go along. And there needs to be more of us who are willing to push back against it and to speak truth against the lies that are being embedded in the culture. And I've already gone on for 57 minutes. Wow. Emi's writing, Gordon, Mahmoud was given a green card. He wasn't given, granted, this is talking about this individual who's being detained in Louisiana, who was protesting at Columbia University. I have Emi writing, Gordon, Mahmoud was given a green card. He wasn't given citizenship. Granted, residency at best, but residency doesn't give you immunity from deportation if you incite the masses to protest. We're talking about, to my mind, this is my point of view, Eat Me. We're talking about free speech here. We're talking about political ideas. We're talking about someone advocating that the University of Columbia divest itself from all financial instruments tied to the nation state of Israel. I disagree with that point of view, but it's a political idea. Whether it's being expressed by someone who's a foreign national or an American-born citizen, it's a political idea. Now, I'm willing to revisit my opinion on this if Mahmoud was advocating violence. But everything I've been led to understand in Canada and the US, the protests were peaceful, like what happened in Ottawa. Remember, during the Ottawa convoy protest, there were equally members of the left who wanted to see heavy-handed action played out on individuals who dared to go down to Parliament and push back against overreaching draconian mandates. And a lot of yay, and an individual's support of freedom of speech, so often it seems to depend on what that speech is. Well, let me see what's being said. And if I agree with what's being said, then I'll support that individual's right to freedom of speech. But if I disagree with what they say, and We're talking about the marketplace of ideas. And what, are we only going to allow certain ideas? And we've got an excuse. We can deport you because you're a foreigner. You're a foreigner. So we're going to kick you out so that you can't spread your idea. That's the old slippery slope. And this is where I say, I like Donald Trump, but he's not perfect. Doesn't mean he's perfect. We've been down this road before, and it's tough. We went through the McCarthy era in the 1950s in the United States when the big red menace was it was a threat. The US and the Soviet Union were at a state of war. They called it the Cold War. It wasn't direct military confrontation, but they were at war. The USSR was absolutely trying to undermine the United States of America. There were communist influencers, communist infiltrators with pervasively throughout American colleges and universities, in government. There are agent provocateurs now for the Chinese. And do you just ignore it and pretend it's not happening? Do you risk overreacting? My supposition is this: overreacting is better than not reacting at all. You know, if you're going to protect your values, your way of life, your culture, well, in protecting it, mistakes are going to be made. And because of our open democratic system and this cherishing of the right to free speech, it allows individuals, but we've got to have it out in the open marketplace of ideas. Anyway, that's all I'll say on that. Brett Skinner is writing, it's a bastion of approved speech. You don't yell fire in a movie theater. Likewise, you take people at their word to not, you didn't write that the best, Brett. A bastion of approved speech. In a bastion of approved speech, you don't yell fire in a movie theater, granted. You're still responsible for your speech. But if it's a political idea, Israel, divest yourself of, or rather not Israel, divest yourself, but Columbia University, we're protesting because we want Columbia to divest itself of all its Israeli attached financial instruments. And we're protesting for it. And if you do that peacefully and lawfully, whether you're a foreign national or an American citizen, it would be another thing if you're advocating for the eradication of the nation state of Israel, which, from what I understand, I've done some reading on it, Mahmoud was not advocating. I think he's an individual who believes in this fanciful notion that somehow groups like Hamas, which openly calls for the eradication of Israel from the river to the sea, that somehow there can be peaceful coexistence between Gazans, the Arab population, because too many Arabs who identify themselves as Palestinian, too many of them are hell bent on wiping Israel off the map from the river to the sea and either killing or expelling the entire Jewish population from the Holy Land. Anyway, Danny, I referred to Gavin Newsom as Gavin Mussolini, and Danny's his other sobriquet, Gruesome Newsom. He has a few of them. Eat me. Hey, have you all heard? If Sellout Singh, Jagmeet Singh, leader of the NDP, which is the Socialist Party union attached party in Canada, if Sellout Singh shows in the US, he will get deported to India or something. Oh, that would be neat. Moose on the Loose broke that news tonight. Their country. Canada needs to, we keep saying we're not, we'll never be the 51st state. Well, stop acting like it. Canadians need to stop acting like we have an inherent, unalienable right to sell our products into the United States as if we are the 51st state. We're not. If the United States wants to build up its steel and aluminum industries or any other sector of its economy. And if the means by which they want to do that is to impose tariffs on things coming from other countries like Canada, that is their right. And the reason why Singh is apparently, according to this alternative news outlet, barred from entering the US is because Sikhs, members of the Sikh faith, some are advocating for the creation of a Sikh national homeland in India, in and around the Punjab, which they are referring to as Khalistan. And that the groups promoting this idea of an independent Khalistan are listed apparently as terrorists in the United States. Um, Danny's writing that Carney has already been caught lying. His wife lives in the United States. This is another thing that's so ironic. We have Trudeau and Carney who promote this idea of post-nationalism, a world without nationalities, where as an antithesis to nationalism, and now we have them embracing nationalism. Pick your side. Are you a globalist or are you a Canada first? Carney is sucking and blowing at the same time. His company, Brookfield Asset Management, a property asset management group, property developer, property asset management group. I used to work for a company called Allied Riser Communications. That was a tech firm all the way back in around the year 2000, 2001, a tech company downtown Toronto. And Brookfield was one of the owners of our company. And anyway, Brookfield, headquartered in Toronto, back in October, with Mark Carney as chairman of the board, voted to move their corporate head offices, a Canadian company, from Canada to the US. He's not Mr. Canada. He is a sellout. Yes, he was born in the Northwest Territories, raised in Edmonton, played hockey, loves to show that picture of him in goal. But guess what? He sold out. He sold Canada out. And he's not selling it out to the Americans. He's selling us out to them. And I almost swore there, to the Chinese. Cryptomiri is asking whether turmeric is good for arthritis. I don't know. So I can't say empirically, but it helped my sciatica, or at least correlation doesn't prove causation. Just because I was taking turmeric and my sciatica improved significantly, I could all of a sudden jump in the air again. Does that mean that taking turmeric caused it? I can't prove it, but I don't care. I don't care if it was the placebo effect. So my non-expert recommendation was turmeric is over the counter. You don't need a prescription. So nothing ventured, nothing gained. I want to be careful because I'm not a medical station. I'm not a medical doctor. Danny's writing canola oil is made from, okay, enough about canola oil. And Eat Me is asking everyone to give me a thumbs up. I already have 10. God love you all. Thank you. And again, if anyone is new to this station, I welcome you to hit the subscribe button. I do try to go live several times a week, usually many nights in a row. I tend not to take 2 nights in a row off, although I just did. Because if you saw the video before this one, I don't know, 4 or 5 times I was sneezing. Great, compelling viewing. Gordon Causey sneezing on his live stream. Although the one thing is, in this world of AI and bots and deep fakes and everything like that, I don't think I'm sure AI can do anything. I'm sure if they wanted to make a video, but they wouldn't do it with me anyway. Or who knows? Who knows? Emi is writing about the Black Lives Matter were also deemed mostly peaceful during 2020. It's the summer of love. That was the interesting thing. Now, I had no issue with the Black Lives Matter protesting. No issue whatsoever. It's a free and democratic society. Whether I agree with what's being protested or not is not an issue. However, prior to that, the nightly news was screaming about the individuals who were down at Queen's Park protesting against the lockdowns. And it was bad, and it was going to lead to increased cases. It was going to flood our medical system. And these are bad people because they're not following the medical orders to shelter in place. Stay home, stay safe. And these people aren't listening. They're bad people. And then all of a sudden, when it's over George Floyd, well, I guess it's okay now. The virus won't spread if it's what we deem to be a righteous political demonstration. What? And that should have been the wake up call. And it's actually that which led to a church in my town, Pentecostal church. All the churches shut down. And then all of a sudden, you had Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, going out and joining in with the protesters. And so the Pentecostal church in town here, with a decent sized back property, unfortunately that backs onto railroad tracks, so you'd have to take a break every now when a freight train went by. But they set up outdoor worship, and that's when I started going to the Pentecostal church here in town. Koji Malik is here from the great state of Florida. Denny's writing that we have secret Chinese police stations here in Canada to report on Chinese here back to China. I have heard that. I don't know it. I've seen but it's not covered by the mainstream. It's not even touched on. And that, does that mean, the mainstream doesn't lie about everything. This is what makes life challenging. They get the NHL sports scores right. When they tell you what happened, a weather event, how much snow fell, they get that pretty much on the money. I have never seen a secret Chinese police station, but then it wouldn't be secret. Eat Me is writing that when the U.S. Constitution was written, there was certainly not an entire year of protests in your land for another country's right. No. It's the U.S. Constitution. It's not the Canadian Constitution. Brett Skinner is writing peaceful protests. That's an oxymoron in today's society. Well, we've got the Antifa types. Supposedly, it's ironic. You become what you hate. They profess to be anti-fascist, Antifa, and employ fascist-style tactics to promote or to push what they want. So in being supposedly anti-fascist, they engage in fascist-style. David Rubin hosted Maxime Bernier at I think it was Mohawk College in Hamilton, Ontario, before COVID. I think it was in 2019 during that election. And David Rubin came up from the United States. They secured a theater or I don't know what the venue was, but it was attached to Mohawk College. I think it was Mohawk College. And they interviewed Maxime Bernier. There was a guy by the name of Frank Vaughan, who's a local to me, who was the local PPC candidate in my riding of what was then called Northumberland, Peterborough South. And Antifa was out there, and they were wearing balaclavas and screaming, "Nazi scum off our street, Nazi scum off our street." And there was an older couple, a gentleman in his 60s or 70s, and the gentleman's mother. Like we had like an 80, 90-year-old and this 60-ish-year-old trying to get across the street, being confronted by these fascist-style thugs claiming to be anti-fascist. And they were yelling, "Nazi scum off our street." And the irony is mind-blowing because David Rubin is Jewish and gay. So we have Antifa, however you say it, anti-fascist supposedly, and they're screaming like lunatics, trying to prevent people peacefully going to listen to a gay Jewish man. But you can't make this stuff up. So yes, Brett Skinner, it is an oxymoron in a lot of ways. Danny's right. Canada becoming the 51st state is inevitable. It's not a matter of if, just a matter of when. And well, no, I'm going to disagree with you just for fun. But I think we could become an extension of communist China. I think that's the battle right now. The U.S. wants us in their sphere of influence. Donald Trump recognizes the direction of the world. He's trying to right the ship. He wants to bring Canada on side as a free and democratic society, but we have elements within the Canadian government who are beholden to their Chinese masters. Whether it's because they've been bribed, that's one potential. The other potential is that they've been compromised. Um, And Danny's writing that, according to what he's read, come across, turmeric is a spice traditionally used to treat various ailments, including arthritis. Again, my medical degree is from the internet, from Facebook. What do I know? But from what I understand, inflammation, just general inflammation, is apparently a major health concern. Is that true? Is it not? I don't know. But if something helps reduce inflammation, it strikes me, non-expert, that hey, anti-inflammatory strikes me as a good thing. Um, and then Eat Me is writing brainwashed of the idea of Quebec identity. They would vote for the devil if he promised to keep the Quebec identity. It is our golden calf. For those unaware, Quebec, Brett may not be keenly aware. Koji Maliks in Florida, where Quebecers love to go, but Quebec is a predominantly French province in Canada. The only official language in the province, not nationally, but just provincially, the only official government, c'est la langue française. It's only French is the official language in Quebec. And I used to live there from 2011 to 2015. Quebec me manque. That's a way of saying I miss Quebec. I enjoyed the culture, le joie de vivre, le langage, l'histoire. C'est incroyable. Anyway, I have Esteban Gonzalez here asking if I've seen the 911 Lone Star TV show. No, I have not. Is that 911 Lone Star? I think of 911 and I always think of 9/11 2001 and the planes. But I'm not familiar with that show. I don't have a subscription to cable or satellite. Everything I consume on media is online. I like it that way because I hear people talking, and then I go, okay, let's seek out some information on this from as wide a variety of perspectives as I can. I want to, what is the mainstream telling everyone to think? What are they telling them to believe? How does the mainstream want people to feel? And then I search out alternative viewpoints to try and navigate this crazy, complicated world. Um, and Esteban is recommending that I Google. So I'm going to write that down, 9/11 Lone Star, 911 Lone Star. Okay, I will look that up and I appreciate it. And Eat Me is writing, it is a dome. Okay. Is that what 9/11 Lone Star is? A dome? Anyway, I'm going to end it off now. I've gone on for over an hour. And this is why, unfortunately, I can't always use the StreamYard platform, which I like. Although, if enough of those nickels and dimes come down from YouTube, uh, there is a paid service that would give me unlimited. But the monetization that YouTube provides, it is nickels and dimes. Goodness knows, we'll see if the station grows. That's one thing. If the channel does grow, if I get more subscriptions, more views, more hours, more this, more that, I don't know. I don't know what, maybe, nickels can turn into quarters and quarters can turn into loonies and toonies, and then who knows. But anyway, we'll leave it there. I wanted to end off by talking about what I hope to talk about on my next video. I want to give this some more thought. There is a scene from The Chosen. I think it's in season 3. Might be the end of season 2. But it's about the man who's by the pool at Bethesda. This pool of water believed at that time to have healing properties. And a man was there, I'd have to reread the account, but I think he's there 38 years waiting to be healed. And you can watch just that scene if you write The Chosen Pool of Bethesda, or just write pool, healing pool, you'll find it. And Jesus comes up to him, and he's been there for, I think it is 38 years or 48 years, he's been there a long time. And Jesus walks up and says, Shalom. And the guy says, Shalom. And then Jesus says, I have a question for you. And the guy says, for me, I don't have many answers, but I'm listening. And Jesus asks him, do you want to be healed? And I want to do a video on this, because in one respect, it might seem like a really stupid question that our Lord and Savior is asking. You've been crippled for, 38, 48 years, however long it's been, most of your life. Do you want to be healed? Duh. Like, why? It could be a Monty Python type comedy routine. Hey, do you want to be healed? Oh, no, I like leprosy. Leave me a leper. I like being limping around all day. It's cool. I like being blind and I can't see nothing. Forget it, Jesus. Go away. Do you want to be healed? And I think it's a serious question, though. I think there's a lot of meaning behind the question, do you want to be healed? And I think if we look, our addictions, our afflictions can become part of our identity. They can become part of the makeup of who we are. And sometimes we don't want to let go of them. I think that's true of myself. So I'm going to explore that more in another video. And I'll wrap it up with the blessing that I like to give. And the blessing is this. May the Lord bless and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and lift up his countenance upon you. May the Lord be gracious to you, and may he grant you peace. And as I like to say at the end, he will. He will. Even in this crazy upside down world where we seem to be, Canada, my native home and native land, is moving closer and closer into a relationship with communist China, godless communist China, and being conditioned, programmed to hate on our closest friends and allies and neighbors, our good American friends. Not perfect, but I'll take the United States of America over communist China every day of the week and twice on Sunday. So I'm going to leave you there. Esteban says, good seeing you again. Tried to tell his mom to watch for a little bit, but she couldn't understand. She says, haha, you're very... Hasta luego. Hasta luego. Hasta mañana. Probably will be mañana. Mañana is Spanish for tomorrow. So we'll talk to y'all later. Thank you, everyone, for watching. At least I got through this without one sneeze. So I'm on the mend. And I have tomorrow off. So I've got a full day to rest and recuperate, and should be good. So God bless, and we'll talk to you very soon. Night all. And thank you for the likes, and thank you for the subscriptions if anyone does. Talk to you soon.